Yeah, I mean, I think it's all like consistency. It's all like the boring advice that no one really wants to hear. It's like you have to be consistent for like years and months on end without even like seeing results from it, and you just commit to the
Hmm.
process, and then the rest will follow. The hard part is like showing up consistently when you don't see results for weeks or months or years. Like that's what most people aren't able to really do. But if you're like on a proven like path that other people have done as well, then like there's no reason why you can't achieve success as well. Like
Yeah.
that's I have a big belief in that kind of thing. That was like I saw other people doing Ironmans that looked just like me, so I figured that I could do them as well. I saw other people starting like photography businesses that kind of seemed like they had the same skills as me, so I felt like I could do that as well. Like when I first started my business, I bought like a course and started working with a coach, and like I felt like, okay, this is the blueprint that he outlined. If I can just like follow this and modify a few things, there's no reason why I can't find
Right.
success either. So it was kind of like if I can just show up and do the required work on a daily basis, and I've seen like someone else accomplish this,
Yeah.
then I feel like there's no reason why I
And
can't.
it's the belief then, belief of like, if I follow this path and I achieve that success, then I'm on the other side of that. Welcome to the podcast. Nathan Newberry here, your host, and I got Chris Pieta here on the other line here with us, hanging out. He's the master of doing his own video agency, and he has some really cool coaching things that he teaches all his students. Chris, happy to have you on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me, Nathan. Excited to be here and kind of share my story and contribute to your audience here.
Yeah, man. Well, tell me about a little bit like what you do. What are you doing? Like, help us a little bit more understand like what you got your success blooming into right now.
Yeah, of course. So I run a photo and video company, working with like food and beverage brands, helping them with photo content, video content, and that was my main thing for 4 years. And now I'm kind of transitioning to the coaching, online education space. So my mission right now is to build the best company for photographers and videographers to learn like the business behind actually running a successful business, because I see a lot of really talented photographers and videographers all over Instagram with great portfolios, but they just need a few business skills to really unlock the clients that will really benefit from their service. So that's kind of what I'm devoting my time to now.
Yeah, that's so amazing, man. Tell us though, like where the origin story all started, Chris, because you're a high achiever. You've got to this success that you are right now, but like, where did that all start? Where did it all begin? Like, how did you get into that frame, that drive, that gear that you're at right now?
Yeah, definitely. So we can go super far back, but I think the right place to start is around like 2017. That's when I got my first camera. I don't have like a creative background. I don't have like an artistic background. My background's in chemistry. Went to school for chemistry. Have like a big like STEM background. So I kind of think in like the science, like with the scientific method, like all that stuff. But in 2017, I decided to just pick up a camera because I was going to Japan for a trip and figured I'd want something better than my phone for that. So bought a camera on like Black Friday. Um, Learned kind of how to use it, learned, watched some YouTube videos on how to actually shoot photos, went on that trip to Japan, practiced all through the entire trip, and kind of fell in love with photography. And at the same time, when I got back, I was living in Chicago, so I would go out on weekends to kind of practice my craft, practice photography, wake up early, go to sunrise at like North Ave Beach, shoot the sunrise, and do that like pretty much every weekend for a couple years. So like 2017, 2018, I was kind of getting better at photography, learning how to take good pictures. And at the same time, I was working a 9 to 5, just a typical like office job, doing regulatory work for like a food company. Wasn't really enjoying what I was doing. I was enjoying like every other aspect of my life. I felt like everything else was kind of falling into place except for my actual work, what I was spending 8 hours a day on.
Mm.
So I figured I needed to change something around that. So at the time, I was good at photography and I didn't like my job. So I figured I might as well make photography the main thing and like try and make that work. So this is 2018, 2019. 2019, like I decided, okay, this job, not really for me. But I didn't really have the confidence to go out and start a business. Like I just didn't think that I could do it.
Yeah, it was
So I gave
scary
myself a challenge.
sometimes for most.
Yeah, it was like I didn't know where to start at all. Like I didn't even think that I could commit to it. So I picked something that was a bit more scary in my head, and that was doing an Ironman. So
How
I
does That's
committed
pretty
to,
intense too. I mean, gosh.
yeah, the rationale in my head was like, okay, I wanted I've wanted to do like an Ironman ever since I was like in high school for some reason. Just it's like this big
Yeah.
thing that I want to get done like sometime in my life. And at the time, like starting a business seemed like something I wanted to do, but I wanted to like prove to myself that I could do something really hard first. And the the training like for this race was the hard part. So it was pretty much like 6 days a week, showing up, doing like a 2 to 5 hour workout depending on the
Yeah.
day, and just doing that nonstop for about 9 months. Um, and at the end of those 9 months, September, I did the race. And at the end of the race, I was like, okay, time to start a business. Like I've proved to myself that I can do hard things. I can be consistent because I knew that like you had to be consistent to be successful in
So
business. So at
important.
that
Yeah.
stage, I was like, okay, yeah. So at that stage, I'm like, okay, let me just I've proved to myself that I can do hard things. Let's figure out how to start a business. So 2019 is kind of when the end of 2019 is when it all really kind of started. I was good with my camera. I proved to myself that I could do hard things. So that's when like the actual work began. So the
How much of that
feel free to
discipline?
cut me off and
Yeah.
ask.
How much of that discipline and grind and grit? I mean, you're disciplined, person all along as just like being, probably a student that's really well, and then you went to college. It sounded like, then you went to like your job and your all the disciplines of some of those sort of things. But then something changed and shifted all of a sudden when you're like, I'm going to do an Ironman. I'm going to start a business. Like what what happened all of a sudden? Did you read a book? Did you watch something inspiring? Did you break up with a girlfriend? Like, what was the catalyst to say I'm going to do that? And then how does that like correlate with the grit and the grind and focus of like, all right, now that I've done something this hard, how do I transition to doing this hard, which is starting a business too, which is not easy by any means.
Yeah, yeah, no, like it's funny because like I can be disciplined and like consistent when like it's my own goals, when it's things like I'm really passionate about. So I was never really like a great student. I wasn't really great at studying because that wasn't really, I felt like that wasn't really my own thing. Like I had to go to school, I had to like go to
Mm-hmm.
college to get a degree. At least that's what I felt like. So I wasn't ever really a good student, but like my hobbies outside of that, I was pretty disciplined and consistent around those. So like in college, I was really into like powerlifting and like Olympic weightlifting, and I like went a few years without like skipping a workout at the gym, and I was going like 5 days a week, and like I was really consistent in that because that was kind of like my own goal. But then like studying and stuff like that, it wasn't really I wasn't as disciplined, and I saw the same thing in like my life after college. Like I was disciplined in like the Ironman
Mm-hmm.
training, but like at my like 9 to 5, I like really didn't care about it because I wasn't really building my own thing. I wasn't working for
Yeah.
myself, and that's kind of what maybe was the catalyst. Like I saw that like if it's my own thing, like I can go hard at it. I can be consistent. I can be disciplined because it's like my own goal. I'm building this for myself versus building something for like someone else,
Right.
right?
And then what was some different things that you learned with building yourself, doing from Ironmans to then, translation into building a business? What you had talked about a few different vocabulary things that popped out to me. You were talking about, disciplines and consistency. Like how much of that translated over, and what were the key things that you learned from that to that translated into building your business?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all like consistency. It's all like the boring advice that no one really wants to hear. It's like you have to be consistent for like years and months on end without even like seeing results from it, and you just commit to the
Mm-hmm.
process, and then the rest will follow. The hard part is like showing up consistently when you don't see results for weeks or months or years. Like that's what most people aren't able to really do. But if you're like on a proven like path that other people have done as well, then like there's no reason why you can't achieve success as well. Like
Yeah.
that's I have a big belief in that kind of thing. That was like I saw other people doing Ironmans that looked just like me, so I figured that I could do them as well. I saw other people starting like photography businesses that kind of seemed like they had the same skills as me, so I felt like I could do that as well. Like when I first started my business, I bought like a course and started working with a coach, and like I felt like okay, this is the blueprint that he outlined. If I can just like follow this and modify a few things, there's no reason why I can't find
Right.
success either. So it was kind of like if I can just show up and do the required work on a daily basis, and I've seen like someone else accomplish this,
Yeah.
then I feel like there's no reason why I
And
can't.
it's the belief then, belief of like, if I follow this path and I achieve that success, then I'm on the other side of that. Yeah. What about at the beginning stages? I love that you got mentorship early on. How long did you grind out on your own before you realized I probably needed mentorship or help to get to that next level?
Yeah, so I mentioned like I picked up the camera in like 2017. I for like learning photography, like I just went to like YouTube
Yeah.
University. Like I looked up videos on YouTube like how to shoot photos, and then I would just go out and practice, come back, try and get better every single time. So I didn't really struggle with that as much as I did with the business side. So like October 2019 is like when I really committed to like figure out how to make money from this thing. So it was just like I spent a lot of time just trying to research like blogs, YouTube videos, like where do photographers make money, and I kept seeing like the same generic advice from like the already well established like big YouTubers saying like, oh, just take headshots on a weekend, and like it was all like generic advice that didn't really make sense to me. So I tried it on my own for up until like January 2020, and that's when I came across like this guy like selling some photography like business course, and I enrolled in it at the time. It was a big investment for me, but he seemed like a genuine guy, had like good content on Instagram. So I kind of like took the plunge and started following like his advice, and that kind of like really opened a lot of doors for me because it was like a client acquisition course. It taught me like how to do sales, how to find
Mm,
leads, how to do all these things that no creatives really talk
yeah.
about. It was like applying the business to um, the photography space, which has been a game changer for me. So like having some guidance with that, plus like knowing what to do, was really really helpful for me.
Was that hard to put money on the line for something that you have not done yet fully? Like, I don't know exactly if you were like in the hole, maybe from college, or you're in debt, and then you're like, I still know I need to do this. Like, how big of a stretch was that? I mean, maybe it wasn't at all, but I know for me, when I first started my investment, it was a stretch, because I came back from like a bad venture, and I was 60K in the hole. My wife came to me and said, "Hey, I'm pregnant. You're the sole breadwinner, Nathan. Kind of figure this out or go get a job." And that was so helpful for me to like trust in that process because I had everything on the line for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't an easy decision because like I've never really invested in myself in that kind of
Mm,
way. But it seemed like a good investment because it was like about the cost of like buying a new camera, and I already had like a camera that was decent, that was like a few $1,000s. And like I knew that like okay, I can spend this on like another camera or whatever, but that's not really going to
mm,
help me. If I spend this money on like investing in myself inside this like education, well, that could have like a way bigger upside than just buying like a new piece of gear. So that was kind of my comparison. Like I had like money to invest in like that next thing that would help my business grow. It was just like what should I spend that on, and it just kind of made sense to invest in like someone who can help me with that because I've been hearing like okay, yeah, like invest in yourself, do that kind of thing that's going to help you grow. So I just kind of took the leap and like trusted in the process. I trusted the guy, and it worked
that's
out.
awesome. That's awesome. And so, like, help us, with your business here. Like, how long did it ramp up? Did it take for you to hit, your success? Or you're working in your business in your agency, and then when did you transition to your coaching? Like, help us understand that timeline a little bit too.
Yeah, for sure. So, like I mentioned, like October 2019 is kind of like when I sat down and like I'm going to start my business. January 2020 is when I invested in like courses and coaching. And then like those next like few months, like I was building up like the basics on the back and like getting your LLC set up, like all the just business basics. And I was about to start working with a few clients around March, but as we all know, the world shut down
Mm-hmm.
for a few months there, or longer. So I kind of like felt bad for myself for a couple weeks, and then decided, okay, let's just still try and make this work. So I started working for free, approaching like local businesses, trying to just shoot their like content, whether it's like a coffee shop or like a local brewery, just build up my credibility, honestly, like get portfolio pieces and like people saying like, hey, this guy does good work. So I did that. And then I started doing a lot of cold outreach. So from I guess March through July, I was just doing cold emailing every single day, like multiple companies, mainly like e-commerce brands, because the world was shut down. But direct consumer stuff was still
Yeah.
popping off. So I figured those companies had money, so would email them. And then July is when I got like my first real client from that. It was a $500 deal, and at that point, I actually just quit my job right then and there, because like I was on like the verge of burnout because I was just working a lot of hours outside of my 9 to 5. I had about like 6 months of runway, and I had proof that like this system, this like sales system that I was using, kind of
Mm.
worked. So like I would reach out to people, they would say no usually, some would say yes, and then I would hop on sales calls, some proposals. It was kind of like a systemized way. So like getting that first yes from that system kind of gave me like proof that okay, if I could get one, I could get 100 more. So that was kind of my mindset. So quit my job then. The next 3 months went really well. Still building up the business. Then 2021, that year was kind of just like figuring everything out, kind of perfecting like the outreach system, the fulfillment side of things, all that stuff. And 2022 is when it really ramped up. In the first like 6 months of that year, I broke six
Mm.
figures, which is like I was shocked at that. And at that stage I was like, okay, this actually works, this is driving a lot of revenue. Let's try and teach this to other people. So I started like a YouTube channel,
Before you
that I've
dive
been
into
running since
that,
like
like,
early.
was that like a catalyst moment for you, like, or like a wild like moment of like I just hit six figures? Most people don't even do that. Like, where were you? What do you remember the day, the moment that you looked at that, Stripe account and you're like, what did he do? What was that like?
Yeah. No, that was pretty wild because that was, yeah, 2022. At the end of the first quarter of that year, I made like over 50 grand, which was like more than my entire salary at my first
Mm.
job. And that was like a really like eye-opening moment. Like in 3 months, I made more than my first job made me in like 12, and that was
Yeah.
wild. And then I did the same thing the next quarter, so that was like 100 grand in those
Mm.
6 months. And at that point, I was like, what you mentioned there, like I was on my balcony, like with my girlfriend, like just kind of in awe. Like when I was running those numbers, I was like, wow, this is
Yeah.
like wild. And like at that stage, um, this may have been a mistake actually. Like I took my foot off the gas and started really going hard on like YouTube, just sharing more and more content on there, kind of teaching like the exact system I was using throughout that entire time. Just teaching like creatives like how to do sales, how to do outreach, that kind of stuff. And I started getting some really good feedback, like people saying like, hey, because of your free content, like I'm able to land clients. Some people even told me they were able
Mm.
to like quit their jobs from that. So I was just getting a lot of positive reinforcement from the educational stuff. And it was just, it felt like really
Yeah.
good to get that kind of feedback. And it just eventually turned into like building out a course around that. So I launched that like end of 2022. And then 2023 was kind of like 50-50, the photography, videography business and the course coaching business.
Yeah. That's so cool, man. I mean, I know oftentimes like what we look for in humanity is like freedom. And I categorize it in three different ways. Tell me if I'm missing anything or if you would, elaborate on this. But we're looking for more money, right? We're looking for more time, flexibility, and freedom. And then we're looking for impact, which is where we draw a lot of our significance and fulfillment with. And it looked like you'd built momentum in like trying to figure out, okay, if I traded my time for money, and then how do I kind of create and craft that business toward things, and then you looked at more leaning toward the impact side, which is like you're wanting to give back a lot with a lot of the content. Like, how does that translate a lot into what you're doing, like what your purpose was, or how fulfilled you felt when that transition point from doing the work to teaching people? Like, was there some major reasons for that, or um, were you?
Yeah, I think like I've tried to analyze this myself, and like there has to be like some really deep underlying reasons to it, but like at the most basic level, I just got more like positive reinforcement from the teaching and coaching because I could directly see like, okay, this is like I'm helping someone who was like Chris 3 years ago start their business. So I was kind of like seeing myself and like everyone I
Mm.
worked with because I was struggling. I was struggling to get clients. I didn't know what to do, how to build a business or anything like that. So I kind of like saw myself in a lot of my coaching clients. So I think that kind of helped with that thing versus like working with like big brands is great, but I'm just kind of helping them like boost their bottom line, versus like really help someone like start their own business. So that's, I guess, the where that kind of like drive
I
comes
love
from.
that. What are the key things that you teach your students, or things that you've learned that are real important for people either starting out in their career as an entrepreneur? Because there's a lot of people on this podcast that are high performers. They're in a place, either they're starting or they want to start, or they've started, but they're hitting some like levels of success that they're trying to figure out how to push back with, or they're trying to like pace themselves with burnout. Like I want to ask you that burnout question in a minute, but what were some key principles that you teach your students, what you found out, what you bring across, that you could share with us today?
Yeah, I mean, like the most basic thing that a lot of I'll do this like specific to like the creative industry, like photographers and videographers. Most people like just don't know about you or your service. What a lot of people think is like, okay, I have to create this beautiful portfolio, create a great website, post something on Instagram, and then the clients are going to come to me and I'll have a successful
Right.
business. And that is like the trap 95% of people fall into. And it sucks because they have like incredible talent and portfolios that just kind of go to waste because no one sees them and they're just told to just post their content and people will come, and that just doesn't
Right.
happen. So the biggest thing is like get your stuff in front of people, and that's going to be at the start like through cold outreach. I think is like the best way to go about that. And then like once you've got a few clients under your belt, once you're making revenue, then yeah, start posting a lot of stuff on social media, start building up that brand in the background while you're still getting that direct revenue from doing sales and outreach. So I think a lot of people just underestimate the power, or how much volume you have to do, how much like outreach you have to do to start getting momentum. And once you do get momentum, it becomes like a snowball effect. And at that point, you just kind of have repeat clients, you have retainer clients. You can let off the gas a little bit with the outreach and really focus on building the brand and starting to get more inbound leads. Um, so I think that's a big thing that people miss early on. And then like once they're more established, well, that's like building out a systemized way to do things and really systemizing as many parts of your process as possible. So it's easy for you to fulfill on things. So you can scale if you want to scale, or if you don't want to scale, if you have a systemized business, well, you can just kind of coast and have a lot more freedom
How
for
important is
yourself.
that system part? Because I know there's a lot of creatives out there, and they're like, I'm just creative. And so it's hard for them to be organized in their life. How crucial is that for you to kind of systemize everything to help people understand that level?
Yeah, I think that's super important, and it's a big mindset hurdle that I have to overcome with all my coaching clients because, like you mentioned, like they're creative, they might be like all over the place, or like they think like if I systemize, they'll take away from my creativity. And I argue like the opposite
Right.
is true. Like if you can systemize the things that are like redundant or that like just happen over and over again, well then you save yourself a ton of energy that you can devote to actually being creative. Because if you're like setting up for a photo shoot, it's going to be like very similar most of the
Mm.
time, but then if you like systemize like how you're supposed to set up or like what how you onboard a client or something like that, well then you can like really devote your energy to the creative part of the shoot to like make that to be like as creative as possible because that's like what you love doing. So I like to argue that like I push back on creatives all the time saying like, hey, the more systemized you are, the more freedom it gives you to be more creative with like what you truly want to be
Totally.
doing.
Totally. Even a canvas has borders. And that's what sometimes
Yeah.
people feel like they're in a box, when realistically there's edges to every great artwork. And so trying to figure out how you can be creative within those parameters that are going to help you be more successful. It's because we have a limited time and energy, for sure. And I remember when I first started my business and I was working with some of the people that are on my team, they made their life so much harder, where they had like a printer, and their printer was like, every time they printed something back in the day when you had to do that, she literally had to go get up and walk a bunch of things just to get to the printer. I was like, let me help you.
Mm.
Grab the printer, put it right next to her. And it's like, let's streamline some things with those simple things to like how to organize your life. And that's not always easy, but it definitely breathes more life and more energy when you buy back your time. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
But
Definitely.
what are some other things
Yeah,
that
that
I didn't mean
example.
to cut you off by any means with some of the cool stuff you were given?
No, that that printer example reminded me of the E Myth because in there he like talks about how like McDonald's like did like the whole mapping how like workers walk around and like trying to minimize
Yeah.
that. So early on, I read a ton of business books and like I didn't really learn business from creatives. I learned business from business
Mm,
people and then kind of applied it to the creative industry, which I think has allowed me to have like some outsized returns compared to other
mm,
people in the space. And like now I'm trying to just like teach that in creative terms so that creatives can understand it and easily like apply it into their own businesses. So there's like a lot of power in just like general business advice that you can just apply to like really any
Mm-hmm.
niche.
How do you throttle burnout, right? What you're teaching a lot of people is almost like they're freelancers in a way, and they need to shift into what we've been talking about with a lot of principles of like buying back your time and like streamlining things that then help you build more time and energy to be able to take on more clients, right? To then create the more of the bandwidth for growth and really shifting into more of that business model. But how do you throttle that? Like as a high performer, oftentimes we bite off more than we can chew more often than not. And how do you end up kind of balancing that drive within as well as like that throttle of like a go-getter type of thing and what you're actually capable of and energy and capacity? Like how do you balance that yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've like struggled with burnout. Like I've gone through phases where I've been burned out in the past too, and it's like hard to overcome that. And I have like some things I do now to kind of help prevent that. And I know how much I can handle. And like at this stage of my career, I'm like more well established, so I'm no longer really worried about like going out of business or whatever. But like early on, in those early stages, it's really hard to kind of not burn out because there's so much you can be doing and you're not really sure what you should be focusing on because everyone's like telling you different things. So I think it's really important to have some sort of clear roadmap of like what to put your efforts into because you could work really, really hard, but you could be working the
Mm,
wrong things and burn out and make little progress versus like someone else putting in the same amount of work, just working on the right things, like they're going to make a lot of progress and not burn out because they're really focused on things that move the needle forward versus just like majoring in like the
yeah.
minors. So I think it's important to get clarity on like what things actually will contribute to your success. And then at that stage, once you get some momentum, it becomes more of like a snowball effect, and it's a lot easier to like keep the ball rolling than to like get it
Mm-hmm.
going. So at that stage, you can kind of ease off the gas and really focus on like setting some boundaries of like work and life and like how much you should be resting and like prioritizing like fitness and sleep and diet and all of that stuff to like have more balance. But there's a we could really dive into
Yeah, I
this
mean,
burnout question if you
I
want.
mean, I'd love to just even know, like, as a higher performer, like you are, like, there's certain things in your life that you do that's almost like the everyday carry, that you live by, that
Hmm.
you die by, that you do consistently. What are those? What are those habits of success? What's your everyday carry? Like, help me understand some of that stuff from your high performance perspective.
Yeah, definitely. Like this works really great for me. It's gonna be really boring advice. It comes back to like the consistency, but like sleeping like 7 to 8 hours a night. So I have like a 10 p.m. Alarm that goes off, so I go to bed at 10 like every single night. And like I force my girlfriend to do the same thing. So sleep from like 10 to 6 for the most part. And then from there, like to eat like mostly clean like throughout the day, and then like for dinners I'll eat whatever, but like try and do like 80% of my food is like clean, healthy food to like keep my energy high. And then the last part of that is like having a daily workout that doesn't drain me, but rather gives me energy. So something between like 45 minutes is like a sweet spot for me. So those are like the foundation of like the pyramid that kind of like helps me run
Love that.
my body like throughout the day. But then there's like micro habits. Like I usually try and like be done working by like 5:30 because I usually eat around like 5:30, and then like sometimes I'll work for like an hour after dinner, but usually not. I always like will try and spend like 7 to 10 p.m. is usually just strictly family time, just relax. Don't really work during that. So there are like clear boundaries I have between like work and just relaxing, and I think that's really important, incorporating rest into my schedule. And there's like it's definitely like smaller habits that are like more personal to me. But really, it's like those core three: like make sure you get enough sleep, make sure you eat clean, and make sure like you work out. And the rest kind of like takes care
It
of
does.
itself if you get the basics done. But it's the consistency behind that that's important too. Like that happens like every single day, like
Hmm.
without exception.
And people can push back on this too, right? Like this is why I think with the discussion about, everything is it's so good. In a way, people could be like, your life is so stale or boring. But reality, when you are on, like how important is all of that freshness and inspiration, or how does that kind of fit in when people ask and push back with that creativity? Like how does that affect you? How does that help you?
Yeah, and that's like what allows me to be creative, what allows me to like think critically and like build and have bigger impact, because I am at my like peak performance state, so I can think clearly all day long,
Mm-hmm.
versus like if I don't sleep enough or if I'm more spontaneous, like I'm not going to be as
Yeah.
dialed in. And like for me, I forgot what this quote is exactly, but I heard like it's something along the lines of like if you can have like if your Tuesday is like your perfect day of the week and you can like live the perfect Tuesday over and over again, like you've made it. Like what that means is like you've got all your habits dialed in, you've got like the perfect schedule. So like on a typical like random weekday, you're doing exactly what you want to be doing with the people you want to be doing with, and you're finding fulfillment like with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. There's a few things that I do, and I want to get your opinion on what you do. They're like everyday carry. My everyday carry is like I have a pen, right? Because I'm always thinking about I'll need one or the people I'm around. I have an eye of like someone's around and they need a pen. They're looking for it frantically. You just know that's what they're looking for. So I have one to offer, right? Or like I have it where I have my headphones because I do net time quite a bit, driving, working
Mm-hmm.
out, you know, like doing shopping, errands, anything. I'm listening to some context of like things. Go to the gym. All I'm doing is I'm listening to podcast or education or something like that. How do you look at your everyday carry in the midst of your high performance and all this amazing schedule? How do you kind of fit, or what's your everyday carry?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've never been asked that before. I think like you, like I always have headphones on me because I'm again like NetTime. Love listening to like podcasts and just catching up on stuff. If I'm working out or like walking somewhere, like I'll always have like an audiobook or podcast in. For the most part. And then like I mean, I always have like my phone on me, but that's pretty much like
Mm-hmm.
it. Um, and like I maybe we should talk about like what's like on my phone and like how I use
Yeah,
that,
I'm
because
interested in that.
I'm definitely fall like the victim into like doom scrolling and like stuff like that. Like I can get sucked into social media pretty easily. So like I have to have like systems in place to kind of prevent that. So like I'll try and avoid having my phone in my office, or like if I have my phone in my office, I'll have like a Instagram blocker on so that like if I try and open Instagram, it'll like count down from like 5 to 1
Wow.
to like just be like, hey, are you sure you want to do this? Because like I like Instagram because I run my business through there. So like posting and talking to people through messages, that's useful
Mm-hmm.
for me. So if I'm intentional about it, that's great. But if I'm like just opening it out of habit or to like watch videos, then that doesn't really serve
Mm-hmm.
me well. Also, like I love the notes app on my phone. Like I'm always jotting down like random notes, and just trying to think of like ideas and stuff like that. So yeah.
How critical is your goals? Like how do you kind of framework, your future as well as now? Like you're talking about preventing burnout, but I can imagine as a high performer there's always like this looming drive that you have. How do you kind of plan for that future? How do you kind of keep that top of mind? What's that rhythm look like?
Yeah, like my goals just kind of get translated into like what I do on like a daily and weekly basis. So whatever like the big picture stuff is, like it kind of gets broken down into like sub goals that happen like on a quarterly basis, and then like from there like those get broken down to like smaller and smaller tasks. So if like my goal is to um, build out like the best education company for like creatives, like that's a pretty vague and like ambitious goal. But what that looks like on a daily basis, well, that could be scripting YouTube videos for this week, or improving the course content I have, or preparing for the coaching call. There's a lot of like sub goals that go
Mm-hmm.
into that. So for me, like I'm not so big on like 5 year goals or even like 1 year goals. It's more so like what are the actions I could be doing this week that are going to move the needle forward in some sort of way. So I'm not really like results oriented. I'm more so like input oriented. Like, what are the inputs I can do? And the outputs are just going to follow as a result of
Yeah,
that.
that's fantastic, man. What else would be super interesting for the audience here to know about you, or what you do, or some of the other questions that I should be asking that I'm not asking? Like, give us some insights to that.
Yeah, like I think in systems a lot. That's just kind of how my brain works. So a lot of my like life and business is like very
Mm-hmm.
systemized. So like if you go into like my social page, like a lot of people that just aren't photographers or videographers follow me for like how I talk about things in my content, and they get a lot of value from it. And like they're not my ideal client, so they'll never invest in working with me, and that's fine. But they still get like a ton of value just from the content there. So like systemizing just like parts of my life is like something that I'm pretty big about, and like I think that just translates to like the consistency as well. Like going to like systems can be as easy as like having the same like wind down routine every single night, or the same like morning routine. Like that's an example of a system, all the way to like how do I create like a new course for my clients? Like how do we systemize that process? How do we make sure that what we're creating is going to give them results? So that's like a more complex like system, but it's still going to follow like some sort of like set guidelines that can be
I
repeatable.
love that, man. Well, it's been a super cool to have you on the show here and just to hear your insights and your story. How can people connect with you, stay connected with you, find you? Where can they do that?
Yeah, so I'm on every social platform. I'm most active on Instagram. So if you just type in Chris Pieta on Instagram, I'll pop up there. If you want more long form content, just search my name on YouTube. Again, Chris Pieta on there. If you want more like coaching courses, stuff like that, just message me on Instagram. You can message me, um, just message me the word Nathan, and I'll know that you came from this podcast. And then we can talk more about the courses and coaching and stuff like that.
That's
So
fantastic.
yeah, those are the main.
Well, awesome. Great to have you on, man. And until next time, we'll jump from here.
Thanks for having me.